Hey everybody, Garrick Rumley here with Duty to Train. The presidents of Harvard, MIT, and Penn, the most prestigious schools in the country, all said in congressional testimony that calling for the genocide of Jews doesn't constitute harassment. A report shows that the life expectancy has plummeted since 2014, and Riley Gaines, the female college swimmer who's become famous for standing up against trans women in female sports, absolutely wrecks a congresswoman and leaves the whole committee scrambling. So let's get into it. So the presidents of Harvard, MIT, and Congress were all testifying in front of Congress, and a representative asked them, does calling for the genocide of Jews constitute harassment? And this was their answer.
At MIT, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate MIT's code of conduct or rules regarding bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
They've targeted at individuals, not making public statements.
Ms. McGill, at Penn, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's rules or code of conduct? Yes or no?
If the speech turns into conduct, it can be harassment, yes.
Conduct meaning committing the act of genocide? The speech is not harassment? This is unacceptable, Ms. McGill. I'm going to give you one more opportunity for the world to see your answer. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's code of conduct when it comes to bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It can be harassment.
The answer is yes. And Dr. Gay, at Harvard, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It can be, depending on the context.
This is just absolutely insane. They're saying that calling for the genocide of Jews doesn't constitute harassment unless you actually engage in the genocide of Jews. And this comes from the same people who said a couple years ago and would probably still say today that if you misgender somebody, you call someone by the wrong pronoun, that constitutes harassment. It's just absolutely crazy. We're living in a twilight zone, and this is the culture war that is like literally raging right now, and it'll be crazy to see where we end up in 10 years. Either this insane side is going to win, or reality and sanity is going to win out in the end, and the people who made these dreadful arguments are going to look like absolute monsters for the rest of their life. And it'll be interesting to see where we end up. And if karma comes for them one day, it's going to be sweet justice. All right, the next story is about a CDC report that shows the life expectancy of Americans and how it's gone up since COVID, but how it's drastically down since 2014. And we're on par with where we were back in 2001. And so I just want to play a quick clip from Breaking Points talking about this, and then we'll discuss.
This is about new CDC life expectancy data, which shows a rebound from 2020. Now, at a glance, you might think that that's good. A decline in U.S. life expectancy from coronavirus eased in 2022, and that was the majority of the headlines that was released, including by the CDC. What they fail to mention is that the country remains, quote, well behind the overall peak of life expectancy in 2014. But even more importantly, Crystal, I went through and I reviewed the data. Our life expectancy data is now on par with 2001. So let that sink in. We have had a 20-year setback now, and we continue on a decline of life expectancy. 2020 and 2021 obviously were extraordinary. They had the biggest drop in life expectancy not seen since World War I here in the US. Some of that was attributable to COVID. But if you read and you actually get into the data, there are two glaring reasons why life expectancy has been on a general decline since 2014. It is chronic illness, drug overdose, and suicide.
I don't know how many people are aware of this data, or the fact that people are just, so unhappy nowadays and so unhealthy that they're dying because they just can't live any longer because their body can't sustain them, or they're killing themselves because they're so unhappy. But this just shows where we are emotionally as a country, right? Physically speaking. And it's no wonder that the younger generation is so depressed, and even like older people, right? That's why I really wanted to start creating this channel and doing this in the way that I am, because I wanted to better myself, and I was spending all of this time on Duty to Train and all of this time on a business, but then everything else was falling behind, and I realized that wasn't a recipe for happiness. I wasn't going to be happy. I wasn't going to be fulfilled. And so I needed to take like a slower approach, but one that would actually bring me some joy. And so that's what I'm trying to create with this channel, is a way for people to come and, get the news articles that you need, know what's going on, but then also like think about personal development, think about your safety, think about all of the things that you need to do in order to better yourself as a human being so you can have a fulfilled life and you don't have to depend on the government for money or depend on your parents for a house. And this is just one of those reports that's just so sad. When you see it on a graph, it just doesn't really do it justice. But obviously, us being on the uptick after COVID is not amazing. Just because we're less depressed than we were when we were literally locked in our houses doesn't mean we're doing well. Obviously, we're not. It's sad to see that so many people have lost purpose in their life. And just the fact that people are so unhealthy. Like, if you're unhealthy, you can't go outside as much. You can't be as active. You can't play with your kids. You can't play with your grandkids. All of that is just happiness that's being sucked away from you because we're so unhealthy as a country. And it's just sad to see. So, a little bit of a depressing story, but it's important to know because if you want to be the best and have the best possible life, you need to be aware that if you don't actively pursue those things, statistically speaking, you're likely to fall into these categories of being unhealthy and being depressed and not having a fulfilled life. So you have to be actively trying to get out of that situation. And if you're not aware of the traps and the pitfalls, you're likely to succumb to them. And the last story is a video that I saw about Riley Gaines, who's the female college athlete swimmer who became famous for standing up to the idea that trans women, men wanting to be women, should be allowed to compete with women in sports, not just at the collegiate level, for all levels. She has been very vocally against this the entire time from the start. And she's garnered a lot of attention. She's garnered a lot of following. She's garnered a lot of media attention. And she was giving a testimony in front of Congress, and a representative called her transphobic. And she ended up calling her this.
Inclusion cannot be prioritized over safety and fairness. And Ranking Member Lee, if my testimony makes me transphobic, then I believe your opening monologue makes you a misogynist. Thank you.
Excuse me, I move to have the gentlewoman's words taken down.
The committee will suspend.
So they're trying to figure out whether or not they can strike from the record what she just said, what Riley Gaines just said, calling this representative misogynist, a woman hater, basically. And they basically just scramble for the next 2 minutes, talking to each other, trying to figure out exactly what's going on so that they can get this off the record, try to expunge it. It's just Orwellian and insane. And I'm just going to kind of skip through this, but you can see them. They're all just talking. Nothing happens.
Okay, I move to withdraw the point of order.
And then she withdraws the request. So she's saying don't strike it from the record because she realizes that she can't, because thankfully we don't live in a completely Orwellian society where if you go up against whoever this random representative is, your comment gets stricken from the record. It's absolutely insane. Honestly, a little bit of a depressing day. It's not always going to be super great. And frankly, we're not in a place in our society, I think, where anyone realizes or thinks that the news is going to be great when they turn it on. And frankly, this is why I've stopped watching the news all the time. It's something I was like getting really sucked into. And that's why I'm trying to focus my efforts on other things like duty to train, bettering myself, becoming a better dad, cleaning up my house, just doing all other things that actually bring me some joy. Because if I just follow this type of stuff all the time, it's no wonder people are depressed. Come on. It's honestly nice to know that people like Riley Gaines are standing up to this insanity, because I have a 4-year-old daughter, and you had better bet that if a boy ever walks onto her volleyball game or something like that and expects to play, I am not the type of parent who's going to be like, oh, I can't say anything. I'm going to be like, this is some BS. That ain't happening. Get off the court. And it's nice to know that I'm not alone. So if you like this video, please tune in every Wednesday and Saturday for news updates. I just cover the biggest stories. You don't have to be engaged in politics 24/7. Frankly, it's not really good for your mental health. If you just listen to this garbage all the time, it's going to make you a depressed person. So get the biggest stories. Don't get bogged down in all the details and all the people like, both sides just go at each other. And it's just a recipe for being depressed. So tune in on Wednesday and Saturday. I'll give you all the best stories. I won't make you super unhappy. And we'll just kind of laugh our way through this insanity. So until next time, stay safe, live free. And I will talk to you soon. See ya.